He's not talking about that here. So I think you're trying to see through his crying and say, there's more to it, Neil. And I'm telling you, it's bullshit. There's not more to it. He's a baby and we need to slap him.
Welcome to the Archispeak podcast. I'm Evan Troxel. Each episode, Neil Pan, Cormac Phelan, and I have a casual conversation about all things architecture, and we invite you to listen in as we talk about everything in the profession, both the good and the bad. Maybe you're considering a career in architecture, you're still in school, or you've been around the blocks of Corbusier's City of Tomorrow more times than you'd like to admit. Join us in the studio as we stand around the water cooler and talk about why we love our chosen profession. It's time for some Archispeak.
I died in South Africa, all the outline, my body in Tiffany's blue. When I died, I drove right in and swam with the dolphins and Lisa Frank and you.
Welcome to episode 39 of the Archispeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan.
And before we get to tonight's episode, first off, we got some business to take care of, which I think Evan has. We have a friend of the show this week.
Yep, we've got one friend of the show this week, and we got a $5 donation from Q Kim, who is from Palo Alto, California, so another Bay Area listener. So thanks, Q, for your donation to the podcast. And if anybody else would like to get their name read on the show and get our sincere thanks for supporting the show and all the stuff that goes on to make the show happen, we would love it if you would visit archispeakpodcast.com/donate, and you can find out more there. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So for this week, this is something that kind of blew up on Twitter recently, and I was first made aware of it by Linda Zaff, a follower of mine and a friend of the show. And then we actually did receive I think mainly because of a dare, a phone call. So somebody actually called our phone line, which, let's see, what is that number? Evan, do you have that?
No.
Damn, neither do I.
You're the phone guy. Yeah.
I'm the phone guy. You're right. And that number...
It goes directly to your phone,
It
right?
does go directly to my phone, so call anytime. It is 415-484-8496. And so Laura Teagarden actually called the number, and Evan, go ahead and cue that up.
Yep, here we go.
Hello?
Hey guys, Laura Teagarden here. After our hour-plus conversation about the Millennials article yesterday, I realized that the post I made about it on Facebook also gained some interest from fellow Ball State Cap alums and other architecture friends. So to appease the Archispeak powers that be, this is my formal request to discuss this article, both the merits and the sensational generalization. I have my own thoughts, but I'd love to hear yours. And based on yesterday's conversation, I know that Neil and Evan have some editorial comments. Have at it, guys.
Excellent. So thank you, Laura, for calling in to the show. And that article was Why the Millennial Architect Won't Be Your CAD Monkey.
What a nice way to put it.
And just before we get into it, because I was talking to a couple of those future millennial architects today in the office, they would prefer to be called Revit monkeys or BIM bitches.
Wow.
I heard, yeah.
I think Bob has the BIMja thing covered over at Life of an Architect. BIM ninjas.
BIM ninjas?
Yeah, BIMja.
See, I think I also heard it as rendering bitch.
Yeah. You know, I have a nicer term. It's graphic secretary.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, kind of what it is sometimes. So about this article.
Well, Evan, I think you had an interesting take on it pre-show. What was your take on this? I want to get Evan to say what his thought might have been first off.
Well, okay, so real quick, the article is on Architizer. It's called Why the Millennial Architect Won't Be Your CAD Monkey, which Neil said, but just to refresh, we'll put the link in the show notes. You can get the show notes delivered to your mailbox. Go to archispeakpodcast.com, and on the right side of just about every page, you can sign up to get the show notes delivered. So you can read along with this, and I would recommend reading it before listening, so you can form your own opinions about it. After I read this, my first take, I didn't have the big reaction that a lot of people do. I mean, obviously, this article, I think, is trying to get a big reaction because it is such a negative article. But what if this article was written by somebody who's just completely fed up with interns or millennials who do actually come across this way? And maybe they don't mean to, but I think we've probably all seen it or heard about it or heard from colleagues of ours who have, whiny people working for them who, nothing goes right because nobody's holding their hand enough. But I don't want to say, like, let's just react to this article as if it were true. I mean, this is on the internet, people. I mean, we can't just accept it for what it is. There could be a Daily Show kind of angle being taken here to this thing.
I thought everything on the internet was real.
Yeah, I know,
Well,
right?
it's real, all right, but I
So cowboys don't ride dinosaurs?
I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't think we should just accept it at face value, per se. There's a good chance that it isn't, but because I don't know Nathaniel Eck, I don't know if that's a real person. I don't know if that's a pen name. I don't know. If you go to his supposed website, there's just a form there to fill out too. There's no work shown. There's no about page. There's no bio. There's nothing.
And I tend to agree with you because, although there are some things in there that, did kind of tick me off on the way that they were presented. It was I kind of felt like, because I do the same thing, that, it was presented in kind of a shock value type way to get a rise out of people, to get the discussion, started, to have this dialogue, to really, I kind of looked at it as a way to take something positive out of it is,
this is the TMZ version of an architecture article, though, right? I mean, it is sensational. Hopefully, it's sensational on purpose to get people talking and having a discussion. But I mean, it's got 46,000 views on the website.
As we say often on the show, I mean, there's a failing of the architectural educational system. And I shared this article with a couple of millennials in our office because I wanted to kind of get their take on it before we started, recording, because, I'm interested, we all are coming into this conversation as Gen Xers. So we know how we are, and we know how, we've kind of approached our whole thing. And we have very similar views as this guy does, on his generation as we have on our own generation. But, so I wanted to kind of get their take on, a couple of the ideas and notion. And as we were talking through all of this, one of the things that kind of came to light was it was almost that big lie that architecture school tells you, that you're going to, be the next architect. You're going to be, designing all the time and doing all of these things. And the thing about it is that they're just not being very genuine when they're explaining to you what you're going to be doing for your career. And when they get into the career, into the profession, and they're sitting down at their first job and stuff, they look at that, wait, whoa,
this isn't what you promised. Yeah,
exactly. It's like, I didn't sign up for this. I mean, it was like my reaction when I went into the Army. I'm like, whoa, this, you told me something completely different, and this ain't it. Mm-hmm. People are yelling at me, But I mean, it's, so it was interesting because it was almost like he was disillusioned at the reality of the profession.
It's hard to say if it's disillusioned based on, being new to it, or if it's just they're just sick of all the crap, because there is a lot of crap. I mean, it doesn't necessarily need this type of a tone to state that there's a lot of crap that people have to deal with. And I find that a lot of people take the approach of, the AIA needs to save us. I've actually seen that comment on several blogs. I think that the last time I saw it was on Mark LePage's blog on Entree Architect, talking about repositioning and stuff like that. One of the comments was, screw the AIA, they need to come save us. And I feel like, a lot of times people are taking the position of somebody needs to do this for me, whether it's move the profession forward, whether it's to pivot and look at it a different way or approach business a different way, or if the AIA needs to come in and help us out because they're not really doing much that I see, depending on how you're looking at it. I think a lot of times people take I'm just going to sit here and wait until something happens approach. And it could just be that they're coming from the aspect of that when in this article, like, I'm sick of all the crap, and hopefully this will get some people to talk about this. But there's ways to be constructive and approach change, or there's the whiny way to say, can we just, somebody else needs to change this for us.
Right.
And this clearly is the latter, not the former.
Well, it's hard to tell. I mean, there definitely some conviction in here, right?
And there's things as part of that conviction that are things that we talk about on the show, that, we talk about with our friends in the profession, that other people in the profession talk about that aren't new. And so to frame it as if you're the only one who feels this way, and that the older generation or the current generation just doesn't get it. I mean, everybody went into this thinking that they were going to revolutionize architecture, in some way, form, or fashion.
I doubt that, but I don't think everybody thinks on those terms.
Well,
I know that
maybe not.
That sounds ideal, though.
But I mean, don't we all at least enter into it with some form of idealism?
We definitely know people who have that type of an outlook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of people.
And so I mean, there's a lot of things that are framed in the article that that sound great, and I use this speech with all of our new hires that come work with me. The first thing that I tell them is that I am not going to make your career for you. You're going to make your career. You're going to be the one who frames what you want out of your career, what you do with your career, and what you gain knowledge-wise with your career.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to be a tool to help facilitate you learn how to put buildings together. But it's you who's going to make your career. So figure out what you want out of it and do it. And, and that's essentially, the idealism that I'm trying, the somewhat forceful way of imparting some kind of knowledge of idealism is like, look, you were told in architecture school that architecture was this way. You're going to get out into the profession, you're going to find that it's that way. Well, guess what? Now, what way do you want it to be? And that's what I mean, some of the things that I got from from Nathaniel's article was that, your way of doing it is not the way I want to do it. Yeah. I want to do it this way. Well, that's great. Everybody should take that stance when they're forming their ideas for their ideal career.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like this article is kind of the tortured artist view of it, where they're painting, like even the second paragraph, it just says, past generations of architects merrily went about their careers, toiling away as interns while getting little to no pay doing monotonous low-level drone work. Here's an interesting painting by James Victori that I found, and it's just this neon orange text on top of some garage sale painting that he picked up. And it says, "You have no friends. You have no enemies. You only have teachers." And I think that that really applies to the sentiment in this article as kind of like a comeback to this viewpoint, right? It's like what you're saying, Cormac. You get to decide what your career's going to be. And there's a couple ways to look at it. It's happening to you, or you're making it happen and doing with it everything you can get out of it. And I feel like this is kind of, coming from the position of, or maybe just fed up with that first position. And
Right.
because there is a little bit of cheerleading going on here, right? They're saying here that the payoff's going to be worth it. The trials and tribulations of the tortured artist will one day yield a masterpiece, and that they would be richer for the experience. There does seem to be some kind of cheerleading going on, but really, when it comes down to it, the garbage in, garbage out, what you put in is what you're going to get out of it. Ask not what you can do for your country, but the other way around. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. It's all that theme, right? And it's no different in architecture.
Well, the thing that, in part, distilling a little bit out of that particular paragraph and then a little bit further down, the one thing that it seemed like he was discounting was that all of the monotony, doing air quotes here, is...
This is a radio show.
Exactly. That's why I had to say it, because I actually really just did it. Is the monotony is the experience that helps build your knowledge for your career. And whether you think that, and this was part of the discussion that I was having with these guys in our offices, they seem to take, because they actually took somewhat of an offense to the way that this article was written, very much kind of like one of our favorite comments about, and I'm going to go ahead and read this particular this comment from Canis Maximus. I'm a millennial architect, and this is one of the most embarrassing narcissistic piece of garbage I've ever read. Do you have any real experience, Nathaniel? Do you understand the concept of clients, budgets, experience, and teamwork? I challenge you to read this in 10 years. You'll likely be too embarrassed to even open it. And what that basically said, and what the conversation that I had with, these young guys in our office is that they understand and appreciate that the people who paved the way for them forward are what is going to give them the knowledge base to be able to impart change on the profession, to move it in the modern direction, to, help change the path of licensure, and, do all of these things that, people nowadays are blaming us as, well, you just accepted this archaic way of thinking and doing, and so, what you got is what you get, kind of thing, versus, we're not going to accept this old-fashioned, archaic way of doing things. We're gonna, push this forward. Well, you can't push it forward without basic knowledge of where it all came from, how it got to where it is, and strategize how to push it forward. It's, we were talking about the generation of the 30-second soundbite. It's, I get my news in 30 seconds. If it's longer than that, then I don't really pay attention to it. Well, it's sort of the way he's approaching this. Well, if you don't keep my interest, then I'm just going to move on. Well, I can't keep your interest all the time when I'm teaching you how to do details, or I'm teaching you how to do CA, or I'm teaching you how to do this, or I'm teaching you how to do that. But all of this stuff that we're trying to teach you is going to be what you're going to be able to use to change it from where it is now to where you think you really want it to be.
You know, one of the things when I first read this that I had issue with, amongst many others, but
You sound so calm right now, Neil. This isn't how you reacted.
Well, I attempted to give blood today, so I'm almost a pint low.
Okay.
So maybe that's affecting me.
Drink juice and get angry.
Yes, my Hulk juice. I don't know. I think your guys' take on this is calming me a little bit, but because I think you're mostly right about it. But there's a few things in here that I kind of have issues with. More than that, but anyway, you know, part of our profession is to actually we have to do things. Okay, we have to commit to designing. We have to negotiate contracts. We have to, as he says, build models or model building, drafting, spec sheets. These are, and details, okay, CA, dealing with, you know, changes in scope, schedule, building officials, plan check comments. None of this is
Not
glamorous.
to mind running the business.
Well, and sometimes none of it is glamorous, even design. Sometimes that's just not glamorous work. We've talked in previous shows where, you know, when we talked about inspiration, sometimes you don't have that inspiration that day and you just have to power through it. You have to find it. And, you know, so even design, you know, isn't this great and all powerful, you know, going to tickle his fancy every single day. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is all of these things that go into the architectural profession, building, you know, doing everything that is necessary to build a building, you know, whether it is a simple garage or room addition, all the way up to a skyscraper, you know, or some fancy modern museum or bridge. All of these things have to be done. They're not all glamorous. They take 6 to 8 hours of, as he says, homogeneous low-level work. It's like, yeah, that is the profession you have chosen to enter. And, you know, I have a surprise for you. Every damn profession you enter will require that. It doesn't matter whether it's architecture or if you want to go into, you know, acting or directing in, you know, Hollywood, or heck, if you're just serving food in a restaurant. It's hard work, all of it. Nothing is just, you know, fancy and, you know, I don't know. That's part of what I mostly take most offense to this entire article, is that it just assumes that I can just kind of wander in and out, do whatever I want to do. And, it's the employer's responsibility to make my life exciting and make my work worth it. And I don't have to work.
You're there to make them money, yeah.
And it's like, well, wait a minute, buddy. No matter what work you do, it's going to be difficult. Now, granted, there are some professions out there where you're going to make more money for those 8 hours. And if that to you, and this is part of the second part of what really annoys me about this, is that, you know, if he basically compares architecture to working for, or not necessarily the exact same thing, but he feels that, you know, creative and smart and innovative things are working for Apple and Google and Facebook and Tesla and SpaceX, as what he says here in his article. And the problem here is that those companies are not architectural companies. Well, they're a completely different industry.
They're product.
Now, granted, but he can make the analogy that those might be great companies to work for, that those companies have done great and interesting things that have benefited society. That's a question about Facebook there, but but you can't compare those two. You can't compare the architectural profession to working for those firms. So you may get paid more to go work in the tech industry, but you're not going to get paid like that to work in the architectural profession.
But
And
what
even
he's
if you do
forgetting-
go to work in the tech industry, those guys work crazy frickin' hours.
Oh yeah. And
You know,
that-
so
and that was-
he's not even thinking about that here. He's like, oh, okay, we're going to get offered drastically higher pay. Okay, fine. We all want drastically higher pay, but we all have clients to deal with. And those clients are not paying 99 cents for a damn app that are being sold on over 250 million iPhones out there. So
Well, you know,
the economies of scale here are they're completely different. So if you want to go make that money or make yourself feel all excited for your 6 to 8 hours of work, go work for those damn companies. Because obviously after writing something like this, Nathaniel, you'll never get a job working for an architectural firm. So go start your own, be part of what you call the most entrepreneurial generation ever, which, you know, that's, I think maybe every generation thinks they're the most entrepreneurial. Guess what? You're not. Okay.
Maybe they are.
Hey,
Well,
Evan,
maybe they are. Maybe we'll find out in another several decades from now, but it isn't right now. And
Evan, I think his juice kicked in.
I don't know. It's just this article. I understand.
Well,
This is
you
a
know,
shot.
maybe
This is
not
a shot
real.
across the bow. I mean, to me, you know, just like working in a firm, actions speak louder than words. And he talks about meaningless work, and I've said it before. You know, you can find meaning in every piece of work that you do. You can find
Absolutely.
design in every job position in the firm, and you might work for someone who's a total jerk. And then that's your prerogative to go find somewhere else to work or to find out what you need to do next to take the next level up in your career. I think it's very interesting that he talks about how these companies like Tom's, Revolution Foods, Warby Parker, and the like, to me, those companies don't give off the air that this article does, right?
No.
They don't give off the woe is me, and I'm sick and tired, and now I'm gonna get pissed off. What they do is they care about people. And I think what that has in common with architecture is that architecture is for people. And what I don't get from this article is that the author cares about what architecture is really for, which is
Right.
architecture is for people. And you can find value in lots of different firms if you have to learn how to do architecture. It sounds like Nathaniel doesn't have to learn how to do architecture. He already knows how to do it. But if you got to learn how to do architecture, you can find a firm that cares about what they do. You can go do low-income housing. You can go work for Habitat for Humanity. You can volunteer there. You could partake in open source architecture. There's so many ways that you can contribute to the better part of the things that are being mentioned in this article and actually do it instead of just writing a flashy piece like this.
And one of the things when I was trying to get a word in edgewise, but
Sorry, I was on a roll.
Well, I mean, your juice kicked in, and I really, you know, it was fighting an uphill battle there. But you know, with all of the examples that he gave of all of these cutting edge, you know, tech companies and things like that, and even the common good companies that. And I don't want to take anything away from what Evan just said about you can find design and you can find meaning in anything and everything that you do, whether it's what you claim to be the mundane specs or this, that, and the other. If you don't see the meaning behind the interrelation of all of these different aspects in the greater whole of creating a building, then you're not really fully understanding architecture.
Yeah, it's totally a big picture thing here, and you're right.
You know, I was talking to, I was talking to these guys, and I want to, put in our show notes a link to the YouTube video, Powers of 10, and I bring this up often. And the thing that I thank my professors, and it was my professor Alan Cook was the one who showed this to me. Powers of 10 is a great example of what this guy is missing in kind of like this greater greater being of architecture. It's this micro and macro view of everything and how all of that stuff interrelates to each other. And as simple as that 10-minute video was, what they were trying to say is that everything has a point, a purpose, and meaning. Whether it is just the mundane thing or it is the big picture and all that other stuff, it all interrelates and it all works together. So you may be learning toilet room plans. Well, how are those toilet room plans going to help you become a more socially connected architect? It will. It's just you're missing that you're missing the vision of what that interconnected view is because it's not satisfying to you. It doesn't, fulfill some inner need that you have.
Maybe he's impatient.
Well, that's it, and that's where I was going with it. Is that, we're getting to a time in our society where there are a lot of people who are coming up in this world, and us all being parents, we see this in our own children, that they're, multitasking with so many different things, and they're doing so much stuff, but what's the first thing they usually say? I'm bored.
Yeah.
It's like, but you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this, you're doing that.
I tell my kids, I don't accept that.
Yeah. I was like, how
That's
can
on
you
you.
be bored when you're doing all of this stuff? So...
No, you're lazy.
Yeah, it's this, if you're looking for fulfillment, which is one of these things that, this guy keeps talking about is, you should give me fulfillment. Well, shit, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do that when you're so multitasked to the hilt that if you can't find anything fulfilling out of all of that, then you're geared to doing a bunch of meaningless, mundane things and never really gaining anything from it. So how can I help you? I mean, what is it that I'm going to be able to do for you? So I mean that's something that we'll never be able to answer because as like I said, as parents, I mean, we've got our kids that are kind of do all of this stuff, and then at the end of it, they're just they're on board. I mean, my son is literally, he's listening to music in his headphones. He's playing, on his DS. He's just kind of like pacing around in the room. And then he looks at me and he's like, I'm bored. How are you bored? You're doing 3 different things. How are you bored? So how are you unfulfilled? What can I do? Tell me what I can do to feed you.
I think, yeah, it goes back to attention span. It goes back to being able to handle constant distractions or not, being in the moment versus not being in the moment. When I was teaching, it was very hard to keep a classroom full of people's attention because they're on their laptops. I mean, I was teaching digital design and they're on laptops. Well, guess what's not on the screen is what I'm teaching, right? They're on
exactly
Facebook, Instagram. It doesn't matter. There's this constant bombardment of stuff, and that's kind of what this sounds like a little bit too, right? I mean, one thing that I hope comes out of this article, obviously it seems like there is some, I'll call it energy. I don't know if it's really passion or not, but there's definitely energy here that should be more positive, but I hope that this person can sustain it because I think that more than anything is what our offices need is positive energy, positive passion. I mean, that's what, I don't know if everybody who's listening was watching Twitter this week, but a few of us participated in this thing called Architalks. If you search the hashtag Architalks, all one word, you can see some different articles, and it was different questions regarding a career in architecture, and one of them was, what's the one thing you look for in an employee? And my answer is passion. I mean, I get so much out of someone with a true passion for architecture, and I feel like it adds so much to the office. There's everybody has their own one-word answer to that, but that was mine, and because I feel like at least where I'm at right now, that is the one thing that I can really look at and get inspired by. And the more inspiration that's in an office, the better.
I was just going to say that he points out that by 2025 that this generation will make up 75% of the workforce, and I hope that there's let's just hope that 75% of the workforce in the architectural profession by 2025 doesn't have this attitude, because
actually,
it's not going to be good.
Because if you follow because this article's got several different links to several different other articles and stuff that kind of helped, I guess, reinforce some of the points that he was trying to make. And in one, it's talking about the millennials making up 75%. And then in another, it's the Generation Y making up the... in fact, actually, here's the thing. The Generation Y takes over the global workforce, who a little more than 10 years will comprise 75% of the workers worldwide. And that is, two slightly different generations. Millennials are not the Gen Ys. They're the gap between the millennial and us. They're that generation, and I guess they're the 90s kids, 80s kids, whatever. And they seem to not, they seem to be the ones who are, as I guess, equal culprits to the mundane that this guy is arguing about in our profession. That, not mundane, whatever he was talking, whatever he was griping about, that he's arguing about. But anyway, sorry, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, because I'm trying to read and talk at the same time.
It doesn't work, does it?
See, it's Gen X, man. He can't do multitask.
Yeah, Gen X is...
There's lots of science behind that.
It's singular focused.
I wouldn't take that as a negative.
Well, actually, and that goes to some of the conversations that I was having earlier with these guys. Is they're like, well, if you look at us, we've got a phone in one hand and we're clicking on, we're doing this and we're doing that and stuff like that. I'm like, but the primary...
And you're not doing any one of them very well.
Yeah, I was going to say, but the primary focus here is that you're trying to... You're trying to get this building done right, detailed right, and all of that other stuff. But if you've got all of these side focuses going on, how do you know that you're going to be doing it right? I mean, I've got perfect examples, and unfortunate examples of where millennials were doing modeling in Revit for me, and because at the time, this was the very first Revit project that I was involved with. I was the project manager, did not know Revit, knew CAD, like nobody's business, but did not know Revit. And so I relied a little too much on, kids who were just coming out of college to do all of the modeling and accepting it at face value that it was right.
Mm-hmm.
It came back to bite me in the ass pretty hard.
Yeah, it's
when it was to me when it was out in the field, and they drew something that when they dimensioned it, it was a good, anywhere from 1 to 3 feet off of reality.
I think you mean 3 foot and 57/64.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, and
crazy,
some crazy business like that. But to then turn back around and have to re-detail out and redo things because of some pretty big busts, or kind of fudging things because rather than asking the right way to do things, well, I've got a computer, I can just make my building do what I want it to do. Well, The problem is that these are existing buildings and they're there. Don't change them. They're staying. Yeah. It's what we're doing to them is what's new and different. And, you know, so point being is that, you know, if you're not focused in on the one task at hand, you know, how are you going to do anything right, or how are you going to do anything well enough to do it right? And then not understanding what the consequences are when somebody's like, you know, hey, you know, this thing that you just did just cost the project $100,000 in additional service, you know, additional fees out in the field.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I'd like Nathaniel to answer for us is, what does he consider meaningful work? He talks about it several times through the article, and I'm not really sure what that means to him. You know, he says...
Well, I think what he says it is by saying what meaningless work is, if you go down lower in the article, which is, I think, any type of work that a CAD monkey does.
All of the mundane tasks, and you know, that apparently
all of the things that have to be done in architecture.
This is an interesting thing. I mean, maybe as a separate topic for another night, but there's the mundane tasks, the actual drawing, the documentation of the building. I mean, maybe you don't consider yourself the person to do those tasks, but those tasks are still necessary to get to the end, right? So, So who are they for? Who are those tasks for? I mean, there are definitely people who work in our offices who don't aspire to the things that the leaders aspire to, or some, like, that's why I said earlier, Cormac, you know, when you were saying that we all had aspirations to make the profession better. I don't think everybody does. I think a lot of people just go because it's a job. And to me, like, yeah, it's necessary. It's part of the business. These are the people who enjoy doing that work. I mean, really, there are lots of people who enjoy doing that kind of work. They want to do the red lines. They want to clock in. They want to clock out. They want to go home. They want to forget about it. And so I think that's okay for some people. It's not okay for everybody.
Oh, and he's making the blanket statement that basically that's not okay for everybody, and everybody should be wanting to do all this other stuff.
I think it's impossible to write an article without generalizing.
Fair enough.
So I do think it's sensational. I said this in Twitter when we were originally talking about this too. I think there's a lot of sensational stuff in here, but I think generalizations come with the territory when you're writing an article like this.
Well, you know, I mean, the people that, you know, since this is in a way my second career, Army being the first, though it wasn't really a career, it was a job. The people who changed the way things were done in the Army were the people who could master all of the different facets of any given job that they, you know, were tasked to do. Because it was lead by example, and there's, you know, no way to, I hate to use this, you know, this statement of, you know, winning the hearts and minds, but I mean, there's no way of changing and having everybody else who you want to inspire to make all of this change. There's no way of inspiring them without being able to prove to them that you can do what you're asking them to do.
It's called credibility, and you can't just show up with credibility most of the time.
And you can't get credibility by just, you know, blushing over the surface. I mean, we were talking about, and I had made mention of, you know, this 30-minute soundbite type mentality, and he makes reference, you know, in the article about, well, you know, rather than working an 8-hour job and being unfulfilled, I would like to just do a bunch of part-time jobs. Well, what that means is that, you know, you're willing to just get to kind of like scratch the surface of a job, you know, of a real job, and learn all of the intricacies of it to master it, to then change it, to, you know, bend it to your will. You're just going to get a bunch of little bits of information, which really means that you know a little bit, but you master nothing.
Yeah.
And how are you going to really change something if you don't really know how it works?
Well, clearly he doesn't care. And in fact, it's his employer's fault that he doesn't care.
No.
That's what he says. He says, you'll be stuck with the $25,000 bill, and it's your fault. Really?
Because you did not make my life enriched and fulfilled.
Well, see, that's the thing. There's lots of me and my and demand.
I think, well, okay, so take...
Wait,
take
there's
the
no
other...
I in architecture?
Yeah. Okay. Take the other side, though. I mean, if you read between the lines here, I think there's a lot of people working in jobs who have lots of great ideas and try to put them out there on the line and get ignored. I mean, this happens all the time, right? So I can see where he's coming from. I mean, you get to a point in your career. I mean, what I see is people who are in their 50s and 60s get to a point in their career where they finally are in charge. It's not like they got to be in charge in their late 20s or 30s and possibly even their 40s. They've waited a really long time to take over these firms and work their way up and do the work to get to these points. And then once they get in charge, a millennial is going to walk in and say, I can do this way better, way faster, way cheaper, and I can triple the bottom line. I mean, chances are no. These people have been waiting 30 years to get to this point. Now they get to make some decisions too. You kind of have to look at it from that perspective as well.
I don't think they've been waiting, Evan. I think they've been working towards that.
Well, that's what I mean.
Goal,
but it
right?
takes.
They're not waiting at all.
I didn't say they were waiting. I said they're working their way up to that point,
Sure,
and it takes an incredible amount of patience to get there.
And
Right.
and I think that's the key to what he's saying is that one, it's
They don't want to wait.
They don't want to wait. They don't.
Right.
They want it now, and unfortunately, that is a byproduct of
The me
kids
generation.
kids that have been made. That society's that's something that society created.
No child left behind.
I mean, we created. Baby boomers created kids that have no patience to wait for anything. When a kid starts screaming, I want this, the only way to shut them up is to give it to them. Well, guess what? That's how they approach the way that they work. Yeah. Is if they don't get it now, they're going to start screaming. And there's either one of two ways, to deal with it. Smack them till they shut up or give it to them. I know that's, but
that is not politically correct.
It's not. But I mean, what you guys were just saying is that's the thing that kind of rubbed a lot of people, including us. I know Neil.
If we take it at face value, yeah.
If we take it at face value, that's what rubbed us wrong about this article.
I would hope that it is really at face value, just because this is on another website that actually published this, and it's not like it's published on their own blog. This is not Nathaniel's blog. This is Architizer. So hopefully there's some amount of, I don't know, there's got to be something in there that makes this real.
Well, so let's at least stop for a second.
Unless it's a social experiment.
Well, let's stop for a second and let's be a little fair to Nathaniel in some aspects of this, and I kind of touched on it earlier, is that essentially let me be idealistic here. At the root of all of this, he's basically demanding that the profession get better, become more, to stay relevant, it needs to move into the new millennium. And we say that all the time. We don't say it this particular way, but we do say that it needs to change. It needs to get better. It needs to listen to all of its members, like when we're talking about AIA, listening to all of its members, like the small businesses, and when we referenced big time small firm, we want everybody to be heard, because everybody can push the profession positively forward. And if we want to be, if we want to take something fair out of this from him, that's what he's asking for. That's what he's calling for. The problem is that the way that he's going about doing it is that work be damned, experience be damned, everything that, gives you that level of confidence to inspire people to follow you be damned, just give it to me because I'm screaming louder.
See, I have to disagree with you, Cormac. I don't think he's asking for the profession to change, for the profession to get better. I don't see that here in this article. He wants everything for himself, and he wants it now. I don't see a call for a better profession in this article. I just don't see it. There's we demand, we this, we that. It's not like these things need to change for a better profession. He never talks about that. He just wants things for himself to be better. He wants the firms out there to make his day interesting and not boring, and give him 50 different tasks a day. And, he's willing to be available 24/7. And he wants, drastically higher pay, work task diversity. And if you give him all this, he is somehow going to triple our bottom line. I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but I don't see him crying out for anything in this article that says the profession needs to be better, or a lot of the things that we discuss on this show. And most recently in the last, not the last episode, but episode 37, where we talked with some friends from the AIA conference, talking about how do we improve the profession for all of us. He's not talking about that here. So I think you're trying to see through his crying and say, there's more to it, Neil. And I'm telling you, it's deeper bullshit. There's not more to it.
No, I think he wraps it up in the end.
He's a baby, and we need to slap him.
He wraps it up in the end and like saying, watch out, because here we are. Before you know it, we're going to be taking over. It's not like let's work together to make this better. It's you better watch your back.
That's right. Yeah. So, good luck to him. I hope this is a fake name, because Nathaniel, if this is your real name,
you're an idiot. Yeah.
You're an idiot. Yeah. Because you've basically insulted any and everyone you're ever going to talk to in this profession. You've essentially insulted, the current profession out there. You insulted me as a Gen Xer, and that I basically have been doing nothing but, getting little to no pay for doing monotonous and low-level drone work for my career. Well, thank you very much, Nathaniel.
Well,
you can add the beep there if you'd like to, Evan, even though I didn't go for it. But I don't see that here, and so I'm not going to let you go there. You can go there, but I'm not going to.
I was trying to read into if there was anything positive that could.
Oh, you're trying to give him a big sucker so he could be happy, and the baloney. No, he needs to be bent over the knee and slapped on the ass.
Okay,
baloney, Cormac.
That's a completely different show altogether.
I think we beat this one to death.
Yes,
I think we've said the same thing 80 different ways.
I think so.
But Neil, you are right. Essentially what he did was basically spit in the face of everybody who will be able to give him the tools. If he wants to take over this profession, fine. In fact, any project manager, any business owner or whatever, that's basically what they should always be doing, is preparing the next generation to take over this profession. But what he's done
But
is
that's
he's
a selfless act as well, which isn't happening. For the
well,
most
true.
part.
But I mean, I'm saying in the reality, I'm trying to
Ideal. Again, back to the ideal. You and your ideals.
Stop it,
Again,
Cormac.
I
Stop
got
it.
into
Just,
this.
No,
I got
it's
into
not
this
going to
profession.
happen.
I'm one of those idealists who got into this profession thinking that architecture can change the world. All right, sue me. I apologize, but
Where do I file my lawsuit?
where this exactly, where this guy is failed is he's failed. He's because he's spit in the face of everybody else, saying that your experience and your knowledge and everything that you've done thus far means nothing to me, and there's nothing that you can do to teach me that I don't already know, so I don't need you for me to take over and change this profession.
This guy needs to have kids immediately. That's what I think.
Well,
does.
I just hope that his proclamation that he is the most entrepreneurial generation ever really helps him because he's going to need it.
And back to my idealism, I really hope it's true.
Yeah.
I really hope that, because right now,
we do need it.
We absolutely need, what I would actually like to see from this guy is a little bit of, humbled reality that, he can at least understand that he's going to need to work as a team.
Okay, but Cormac, that humble reality does not get you 49,000 or 46,000 views on this article. So
no, those most of those
You're right.
views are angered views that have the same.
Get a load of
opinion.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, well, look at this BS.
yeah, and or between us, we'll be like, hey, I think we can make a show out of this.
It is the water cooler. It is the water cooler talk. Yeah.
It is a great water cooler talk, and it's.
I'm done with this. This is leaving a bad taste in my mouth. I want to be done.
Drink more juice.
Drink more juice. Well, I think we're done.
Yeah.
So if you have questions or comments on this, please give our website 46,000 views by going to Archispeakpodcast.com. And if you want to engage with us or call us out on Twitter, you can find our Twitter accounts there. Or if you really want to let loose on us, you can give us a call at Archispeak Podcast hotline at 415-484-8496, or visit the Facebook page where you can feel free to give us your 2 cents on this. So, please visit and let us know what you guys think.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people were saying that, they were hoping we could talk about this, and hopefully, I don't know if we had anything to add to the conversation, but I would love to hear what raging infernos are going on out there over this, because there definitely were some people who were pretty upset about it.
Well, we have, I would say we probably have some millennial listeners out there. So, chime in.
Yeah.
Give us
Tell
what
us
you
how
think.
wrong we are. Yeah.
And the guys that are in school right now that, are looking to be the millennials that changed the profession, let us know how. Let us know how you want to do it. And, but be positive about it, because...
Let us know how we can help.
Let us know how we can help.
Absolutely.
You're at least going to have to come to us for the experience to take over the world.
There you go. Well, with that, let's leave it at that. Everybody, please stay subscribed, and thanks for listening.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, guys.